Hi guys, welcome to another Pilgrim car review. Today we have the updated and facelifted Peugeot e-2008 electric on review with us today. So this is obviously a updated and facelifted version of the e-2008 that we drove sometime last year, and actually the car looks a little bit different from the one before as well, and we'll actually talk you through some of the differences in terms of the exterior. We're going to jump inside, check out its interior, and of course take it for a drive, because there are some differences and updates that have been made to the battery size and battery pack of the car. But before we do all that, if you are a driver in Singapore and thinking about selling your used car for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description box below, because through that link we'll be able to provide you the best possible quote and valuation for your used car. It's free to inquire. In fact, if you need an insurance renewal quote, we have links for that as well, so do check them out. Without any further ado, let's get on with the review. Let's go. Alright, so jumping straight into the review, this is the exterior of the e-2008, the updated and facelifted version. We're having a bit of nice weather for a change. It's rainy right now, but unfortunately that means the car is a little bit dirty. So I'm so sorry about that. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the car's design. So, if you have followed the progress of the e-2008, you'll know that this is a fairly good looking small car, and I think the updated version is no different. It looks even better than before. It's got this really nice rugged feel to it, and overall I think it looks quite sporty. In fact, if you drop the car a little bit, if you increase the size of the wheels, I think this could be a real looker. But let's zero in on some of the updates on the new version. So generally the front fascia has been changed a little bit. The grille especially has been redesigned, so it features now a combination of vertical and horizontal slats. Previously it was mostly horizontal, and then you've got this 2008 emblem now on the front, and not only is it on the front, it is also been blacked out, which I think looks very, very premium. I can't remember if the old car already had the redesigned logo on it, but this logo is now the one on the present 2008. In terms of the front bumper, I think this has been redesigned as well. It looks a little bit different from the old one, and of course below it houses its radar as well. One of the big differences is actually in the headlight cluster. So they have actually separated the 3-claw DRL. It used to be actually, one piece combined with the front headlamps, but now it has been separated. I'm not sure it looks better in that sense, but it does look a bit more purposeful. So from far, if you look at that spot created by the new DRL cluster, it almost looks like an additional piece in like a sporty front bumper, like a body kit, so to speak. And I think that adds to the effect as well. So down the side, we have, these are 18-inch wheels as standard. Not the most sporty looking wheels, but I think they fit well for the car. You've got the E emblem on the side for electric, and this is what the car looks like from a side profile. Pretty cool. I think it's got a very nice sloping window line, which I think looks very, very good. Now towards the rear, the rear emblem has actually been changed. So instead of a logo, a lion head logo, the Peugeot word has now been placed. And of course this has been blacked out as well. Very, very cool. And a slight adjustment to the rear lights. Not that it makes a difference, but the 3 red lights are now separate pieces. Doesn't really change anything, and I think this is not something, I don't think this is something that you will notice if somebody didn't tell you, but nonetheless it is an update on the car. So with that said, I think a lot of you will be interested to find out how the car looks like inside, because I think the Peugeots do a pretty good job on the interior. So let's jump back into the driver's seat and show you around the cabin. Alright guys, so jumping into the cabin of the e-2008. Welcome to the cabin or cockpit. So to get things started, I think overall it's a pretty good looking cabin. It's super modern, and I think it's quite edgy, very young, very cool. Lots of this Obviously, I don't think this is real carbon fiber, but there's this carbon fiber finish to a lot of the dash and a lot of the trim. And I think that looks really good. I think it's well placed. The finish is matte, it's not shiny, so it doesn't look cheap, which is a good thing, of course. And I think it does really help to elevate the entire look and feel of the cabin. It feels premium, you know, as compared to, for example, the EC4X, the Citroen EC4X that we reviewed a little bit earlier in the month, and that had a, you know, quite a plain interior, not unpleasant in any way, but the e-2008 from Peugeot definitely does look a little bit more styled, a little bit more elevated. And it's not just the carbon fiber finish as well. There are other elements, for example this infotainment unit, which is actually, I believe this is bigger than the previous version of the e-2008. This is an updated infotainment unit. I think this looks more deliberate, more styled. And then of course you've got the digital driver's display, which is holographic, and this is, you know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this is probably one of the nicest digital or digital driver's displays out there in any car, because it looks really, really cool. It's got that matte finish that we really like from for example, like the Polestar 2. I think that car as well had this really nice matte finish to the graphics, and it's really simplistic and simple, nothing too fancy. So in that way, it does look quite minimalistic and it looks quite premium in that sense. I personally really like it. The holographic stuff is, I mean, it's not necessary. It is a little bit gimmicky, but you know, if the manufacturer has been able to squeeze that in and keep the car competitive in terms of price, then why not? Because this is a really good thing to have. One thing I actually kind of like as well is these signals. Sorry, I'm going to use the other side. So with the signal lights, it actually pops up over here on the side here. There's this additional panel. I mean, it's a little bit strange why this panel exists, but I mean, it kind of looks quite cool. The signal lights come on here. I think it looks quite nice as well. And I do love the note that's like the sound that's made with the signal light. It's got a very pleasant tone to it. Very, I mean, it feels quite premium. And then, of course, you know, you can't forget this, but the this small flat bottom, flat top GT steering wheel, I think is very, very, very nice to have. In fact, I think this is my favorite steering wheel, or maybe not my favorite steering wheel, but definitely top 5 favorite steering wheels in any car you can find today. Because when you are using a steering wheel that's this size, your full lock turns, when you're moving your arms around, it makes it a lot easier, and it just takes up a lot less effort when you're doing this. And you know what, it looks so cool, super cool, really nice to the touch. It feels quite upmarket. The buttons feel quite upmarket too when you press them. I think that's a really cool thing. No clickety clackety sounds, so very positive here. Piano keys here. So the e-2008 unfortunately doesn't get the eye toggle switches that you get on the higher end Peugeots, but these piano keys are actually pretty nice. They do, once again, add a level of sophistication, you know, not so basic in that sense. So even your hazard lights, if you're pressing it, you know, it's right here. It looks pretty cool. And then it comes in this like sort of satin chrome finish, matte chrome like finish. Again, very modern. Down in the center console, you've got quite a lot of innovative storage spaces. So you've got a storage space here that can be covered up. And this also houses your wireless charging pad. And then you've got some storage space below here. You know, if you fold it up, actually looks pretty neat. And then of course you've got your drive selector, your parking brake, and your drive mode and your driving mode selectors here. And we've got this tiny cubby here. There is I'm not sure what it's good for, but can it fit up? Oh, that's interesting. No, it's not deep enough for a tumbler, but you know, to keep some of your knickknacks perfectly usable. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in the interior is definitely the seats, because these GT line seats with the lime green stitching, this is not typically something you would get in a car that costs sub 200,000. or rather a car in this segment, fairly entry level segment. This is something you get on a more premium car, and you have that in the e-2008. So I think there's a big plus. It's super comfortable as well. Unfortunately, they're not electronic. They're not electronically adjusted, and this is probably one of the ways that Peugeot have kept the cost down. But if you can look past that, actually the seats are really comfortable. They're really cool looking, and I think they definitely would suit a younger demographic. So huge props to Peugeot for doing this. With that said, let's jump into the back seats and check out the rest of the car, because after all, I think the people who will be looking at a car like that will be a lot of young families. So I think while space is not the primary concern, you don't need a massive car, you do want a decent amount of space. So let's go check out the rear and see how it fares. Alright, so jumping to the back seat of the e-2008, the first thing you notice is the door opening is very squarish, and the doors are very nice size. So if you're at a shopping mall car park or multi-story car park, you're not going to have too much issues with this door, hindering you. This driver's seat is in my regular driving position. I'm 175 meters tall, and this is actually the amount of legroom that I have. Isn't that pretty amazing for a car that is this size? I am pretty impressed with it actually. No rear aircon vents in the car, unfortunately, but I think because of the size of the car, I think I think you'll probably get away with it. In fact, right now I can actually feel the draft or the breeze from the front aircon as well. So I think not too much of an issue there. Of course, today is a rather cooling day. It's a rainy day, so I'm not sure whether on a hotter day that might become an issue. But let's see. So this is the amount of legroom that I have. My headroom is actually also okay. And while I think it might be a little bit tough to carry 3 passengers in the rear side by side, I mean, if they're really skinny, you shouldn't have an issue. But yes, if 3 full-grown adults might struggle to fit in the back here. But that being said, the hump on the floor here is actually not too high. It's actually pretty low, so you won't have to fight for legroom all that much. Speaking of young families and kids, obviously the e-2008 also comes with ISOFIX points here, so that's really positive for you to fix in your child seats. So yeah, pretty functional, nothing to complain about. Size is really good, and actually you've got some space under the front seat as well to tuck your legs in, so I think all that should be quite comfortable. Now let's jump back into the driver's seat, take the car for a drive, and see how it does on Singapore's roads. Let's go. Alright guys, so back in the driver's seat of the e-2008, and we are gonna go take it for a drive. So but before we actually take it for a drive, let's go through some basic specifications of the car. So in this updated version of the e-2008, the battery size has actually been increased a little bit. Sorry, let me just let the dash cam finish its talking. But yes, so the battery size has been increased from 50 kilowatt hours to 54 kilowatt hours. And what's pretty amazing is that with this increase of just 4 kilowatt hours, the e-2008 has actually increased its range by about 90 kilometers plus minus. So that's actually pretty cool. Power has also been increased a little bit, so now it's up to 134 horsepower instead of 130 horsepower, and that gives you about 10 Newton meters of torque more than what was originally available in the previous version. There's not a lot of difference, and honestly, when you're driving the car, I wouldn't say that the car feels entirely different, so to speak. But one thing that I feel it is a little bit different. And you know what, this is a bit subjective as well, because I mean the last time we drove the e-2008, which was some time ago, I mean I can't say I remember exactly how the steering felt, but in this particular version I feel like the steering weight has been increased a little bit, and so overall the car actually feels more hefty to drive, which in my books is a good thing. So I know that there will be people out there who prefer steering weights to be as light as possible, like paper light, but in the e-2008 it actually doesn't. It feels quite weighty, lower speeds, higher speeds as well, and that gives the car a little bit of a like a feel of a larger car actually, and also gives you a little bit more assurance when you're kind of going at higher speeds or when you're driving a little bit more aggressively. So it's definitely something that I quite like and welcome, and you couple that with the rather small sized steering wheel here, the flat bottom and flat top steering wheel. I think the whole car feels actually really sporty to drive. Obviously this is still somewhat of a crossover SUV, so there is a little bit of height to the car compared to if you were driving a pure hatchback. So obviously if you're chucking into corners, you do feel the front tires load up a little bit and the car does lean a little bit, but overall I think the car feels quite good to drive, and I think it's perfect as a city run around. If you're not traveling very long distances, if you're using the car around town, I think this entire setup is a really good one to look at, because you've got a small battery pack which gives you a decent amount of range, so it's now crossed the 400 kilometer mark, 440 kilometers thereabout. So more than enough range for city driving. And then you've got that smaller battery pack as well, or that small battery pack compared to other cars in this segment. So that really essentially means that you've got less like you have a shorter charging time, even if you're using a regular 50 kilowatt charger, which I think they're quite readily available today. Then you've essentially just got a charging time of about an hour max, and the truth is you're not really supposed to charge the car when it's right down to zero anyway, so you're probably doing your charge somewhere in around the 30 or 40% kind of mark. So really your charging times are really going to be quite negligible, so to speak. If you go to a shopping mall, you plug it in, 30 minutes, run a simple errand, your car should be quite easy to keep up its charge, so to speak. And obviously in this price point, at this point of shooting the review, this e-2008 is about 166,000. So around this price point, obviously you've got the Atto 3, you've got the EC4X from Citroen, and all these cars kind of sit in the same price segment, and obviously the e-2008 is probably the smallest one in terms of overall cabin space. But to be very honest, if you're not really looking at if space isn't your top priority, all these cars feel quite similar to drive in a sense, and it's probably not as plush and comfortable as the other two options, but it is, in my opinion, the most stylish of the three options. And because of that steering weight, I feel like it's the most differentiated actually, because to a certain extent it feels like the nicest car to drive. So like I said, if you don't need all that much space, I think the e-2008, and as we showed you earlier as well, there's actually a decent amount of space for a car this size, for your second row passengers as well. So it's definitely going to be enough for you to do your grocery runs, to send your kids to school, so on and so forth. Obviously luggage, golf bags, that might be a little bit of a slightly, like, it might pose a slight challenge, but if you're not using the car for those purposes, if you're using the car within Singapore, I think it's absolutely fine. And then of course we've got such a stylish interior as well, lovely driving dynamics. So I think this is really one to consider if space isn't your primary concern. Now, if you have questions about the e-2008 that I did not address, or certain things about the car that I didn't address, please put your questions down in the comment section below so I can answer them when we have the time. More than happy to answer those questions. If you have found the review useful, or if you have enjoyed it in any way, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel, because we've got more reviews coming out every single week. It would be wonderful if you could join us for those reviews as well. You know, just a quick reminder before we head off, if you are driving in Singapore and you're thinking about selling your car for the used price, link in description. We'll be able to provide you the best possible quote and valuation for your used car, or help you to consign it for the best price possible. In fact, if you need an insurance renewal quote as well, we also have a link for that purpose. So free to inquire. Please do check those links out if you require those services. And as usual, you know, if not, please take care of yourself, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.